Hey, it's Puueds. I feel like we're getting a little bit bored of this. So I'm doing a sort of refacing, and think of it like a rebranding where I'll change what I look like next. And well, it just came out. I just got this from the internet, so I'm pretty excited to try this out. So let me just put this on and... I can't see.
Have you ever represented yourself in the form of shapes in a ship?
Definitely just did.
Geometry Dash is no stranger to profile customization. In its release back in 2013, you could name yourself and pick the icon that best suited you. Not a huge range, but it did the job. Nowadays, you can really customize all the gamers and display them in a neat row on your profile to truly represent you.
I'm not as orange as my icon. Let me just fix that real quick with some good old orange paint. Alright, here we go, and orange paint and...
However, what about your own profile picture? All sites have the standard of allowing you to put in a picture for your profile, but Geometry Dash doesn't really have that. So what do?
Photoshop. Or anime characters.
Geometry Dash has a history of profile pictures, from the most infamous players and creators to even the unknown novices. From really feeling like this would be a Geometry Dash player if you glance for even a frame, to this could legit be any rhythm game player. When you look around on YouTube or Twitter or on Discord, there's a lot of variety, especially if you compare it with other communities. Plus, there are eras of which some of these profile pictures were at their peak popularity. However, the type of profile pictures I'll list out have all never really phased out. There are cubes on a ship with a ton of visual effects and flares, to simply a character that they or got someone else to draw that best represented them, or even faces of themselves as their picture, to logos that are actually really sick when you peer into them, to random funny pictures or memes, or just anime characters.
There are waves of popularity for each type of profile picture, and that's what I'll be discussing about today. People change their profile pictures all the time, so there's a lot of history behind that too. So let's get into it.
To really kick things off, I want to start with my own history, since we can use that as a reference point. I follow the trends of profile pictures, and for the first profile picture, oh yeah, there's definitely a trend with this. This was before I really got into Geometry Dash as a kid. I was known as Plebic Sniper at the time, and I was into Splatoon on the Wii U. I used this as my profile picture to communicate that I was a sniper and I was a pleb. These are two things you would not like to see put together when you're in a match with him on your team. I managed to get S rank around this time, and even S plus 2, and then I stopped playing ranks because I did not want it to ruin my rank. Paradoxically, I was actually pretty good with the splatter scope and E-leaders, but when I really did get into Geometry Dash, I actually drew out my profile picture around March 2016. I thought I drew this back in primary school, but it was actually in high school if it was 2016. Or I took a picture 3 months later after 2015. As cute as it is, you can really see how GD it is, down to the cube and ship, the border, the GD assets, and the overall composition. A month later, my friend Aaron, who went by Voxify at the time, made this, and then this too. The first one definitely needed some improving, and the second one in my opinion is still pretty good and it holds up. There's this profile picture that he also made, and it's hard to believe he made it after that. But the next one? Who the hell is that? Yes, surprisingly I used very different icons to the kill this specific someone in broad daylight one, using the RobTop and Deadpool with various ships. You can see in one of my old names, Plebiscite, though you have to see it past the spam of Space Glow visual effects.
It's not coming off.
And finally, the most iconic of them all, especially if you consider my Discord profile picture, is the P. This is kind of peak, even if it's basically Glory by Robbuck. I've used this for about 3 years from 2016 to 2019. It's so spacey and full of detail that even if my graphic design self is screaming internally, it's a vibe. And then I used this afterwards. Much like everyone else in 2.0 and 2.1, I got kinda sick of the glow and went to a more minimalist like style with still a P, but just drawn with one sketch. And then we land to what I have today. I have an orange P on Discord that's very inspired by the background and the Welcome Wing animation, and a Halloween and Christmas version too. My YouTube profile picture, which is still the kill this specific somebody in broad daylight icon I made on Illustrator, and on Steam, it's the drawn P. A lot of people say I have cat ears for this one, and well, yeah, I admit it, I'm a cat. So what now with my history of profile pictures? Well, with the entourage of all the Geometry Dash stuff, this definitely became popular in the community even from near the start. If you search up Geometry Dash profile pictures on Google, you'll find an abundance of these, with most sharing the same composition. Maxis9 has his awesome custom 100 likes icon on the default ship, and while it does have Glory by Robbuck syndrome, which I'll dub it as that for convenience sake, it really adds on to it and makes it such a vivid picture to look at. I think he also made this himself, so kudos for setting a standard almost a decade ago. Ryan and Cyclic have several Geometry Dash profile pictures, like a lot of them. Beveling was a common finishing touch to add to these icons to give a sense of highlights and depth to the icon's flat textures in game. In the most iconic pictures, it resulted in a lot of contrast and made it look like there was a huge spotlight above them. There are other pictures that are also simply goalie by RobTop. On YouTube, Cyclic still uses his Geometry Dash profile picture, but Riot's current profile picture is now his name, and while it looks good, I do miss when it was GD. Just felt more memorable and fitting given his track record. If you are also around in 1.9, Nubis may be a familiar name, and this picture is probably the most iconic of them all. He has a whole history starting with noob, and then Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, and finally Geometry Dash. Touch Deluxe probably in my opinion has one of the most iconic profile pictures, a custom made icon that's all rainbow with a huge smile, a rainbow border and a crap ton of GFX, and a lot of beveling as well. Everything about this screams the era which it was made in, but it still holds up strong as an identity even compared to modern profile pictures. For more examples, you can check out Xanthic Alpha, Abstract Dark, Floroni, Serpent, Neptune, Taman, Triaxis Michigan, and for some newer folks, Modi. Also, have you noticed how many of these just have borders? They all derive from Geometry Dash's icon, which has RobTop hopping over a spike and the yellow border with his initial on it. This became a great reference point for upcoming creators or players to base their profile picture off if they didn't have anything else before. The thing I noticed from looking at all of these is that there's always a striking, never perpendicular borders that frame the whole thing. Hell, even down to the first profile picture I made for myself has it. Why? First, it might just look cool and make it more dynamic. It's more interesting to look at a line that's off by 1 degree instead of it being 0. Especially as a kid. Secondly, how else could you revamp the classic Geometry Dash border? Now, I could think of many ways today, but back then, probably not. I'm sure there were some that did do it differently, but nothing of mine really comes up. It could either be round at the edges or a perpendicular line's fans' worst nightmare. Thirdly, it just might have to do with Geometry Dash's art style before the community drove it their way during the update dry era of mid to late 2.1. When you look at some of these profile pictures, you can really see the geometry of it and how simple it all looked. The diagonal borders complement that style for sure and fit right on in when you smack more assets with it. Looking at my own profile pictures, even in the midst of all the glow spam, you can really see how simple the silhouettes are. You can easily guide anyone's eyes to whatever's happening in the profile picture.
I've given up.
However, the modern rendition of Geometry Dash's profile pictures really don't have that border anymore that surrounds the icon. After a long while, they all start to look the same in terms of composition. 80% of the time you see them, it's usually their icon on the ship, and sometimes they're on a 10-degree tilt, or even more steeper. You can see this with Wolsey's profile picture, which has a volcanic background and a decent amount of glow. It's quite refined and exquisite, and any GFX artist will be groveling at the sight of this.
It's beautiful.
Ice Cave is a very iconic bunny icon and has no border in sight, and actually this icon has seen a resurgence in popularity, probably thanks to him. It used to be pretty popular before 2.0 and it's popular again. Doggy and Nempesta share the same sort of style as well. Nexus is pretty good, a bit too dark overall for my taste, but it's still pretty iconic. Nothing as Scary's profile is reminiscent of old Geometry Dash's profile pictures. It doesn't have the border, and the level background used is the ball maze in Theory of Everything too. This is more traditional, but technically it still counts in here. Dorami's picture is something I've actually never seen before. I don't think anyone has put their face inside of their icon and used it as their profile picture. Maki's forced profile picture could actually do it, but I'm not letting him.
Well, it's time to be the second.
Before that, he had this, and wow, it really takes me back a minute ago. Viprin's current profile picture is simple and good. It's good. He also has a ton of history, especially if you look beyond 2.1 and 2.2. If you go onto his YouTube right now, you can see his current cube and dragon ship icon, which have a ton of detail in its outlines and fills. But before that, he rocked with a set that was much simpler. Around 2015 to 2016, Viprin had one in the traditional style with a very RobTop-like border, a few cogs, swords, and whatever that is. I think it's a shuriken. I looked it up on what it could be called, and people also don't know too. If you were around in 2.0, you would recognize his 30 Demons Cube and the 130 user coins eel ship filled in with yellow and purple. When I think of Viprin, I still think of his current set today, but after that I would definitely remember his previous set. There's a second one that's way more refined. It's really well made, and this is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Viprin. The eye glow is intimidating, and it has the classic beveling in it. I'm pretty sure this one is made by Maxis9, especially if you compare the styles, and if you also look at Viprin's Twitter at the time. Afterwards, he actually switched to a drawn profile picture with space glow, of course. I remember seeing this too and was quite confused at the time, and then he swaps back and forth onto 2.1 hits, and it's the set we all recognize today in the hand-drawn style. These last two ones are the same drawing. The latter has more detail in the space styles, and the shading seems to be given more depth. However, in 2014, you'd be surprised to see Viprin rock out with profile pictures like these before what he has today. Having custom icons for your profile picture before using GD's icons is quite impressive and interesting. Texture packs were pretty popular around this time and it was a much more easier thing to mod. These are in order from left to right of what he used in 2014, and it feels off to not see his current colors here. Huge thanks to Viprin for providing all these profile pictures he used throughout his GD lifetime. Thanks. On top of that, there are profile pictures that aren't really traditional at all, or even like the modern ones, but instead really shake up the composition and really use custom methods that can go into sort of branding territory. Vortex and Partition have their icons zoomed up to an unfathomably somehow comfortable level. Partition is what you would see in a Woodworks joints example sheet, but if you saw Vortex that close in the middle of the night, would you crap your pants? Ugh. Trident is a good example of keeping it clean and really memorable. The cool purple gradient in the background complements the flat blue and cyan of his icon, and his name is just on top. A lot of people have done this before, but he and the artist who made this did a really good job at this. Gary is also a very solid contender with a green circular border, his own name, and the outline of his icon. And you could just have your icon tilted at a 25-degree angle. Here's all I could find. Dance Man, the classic icon that's just drooling a bit. Hand drawn and sort of amateurish and chill, but extremely fitting for his personality and content. Before that, he had a really well drawn cube that was used in his levels and had another profile picture that is just completely art. And not gonna lie, I don't know if I've seen anyone also do this kind of profile picture. Even Lemons has a similar evolution and style of his. If you take a look at one of Viprin's creator battle videos, both Danceman and Lemons were featured on it, and it shows a sort of growth in profile picture trends from simply photoshopping things together to really drawing out these cubes at the time. Nokada Chudo is pretty much a classic. It gives the Polish, Indonesian, and Monaco the representation it needs. And maybe Singaporean if you squint hard enough. Wait, no, he's American. There's Dove JT, who has a very sleek border and outline of his icon. It's overall very clean and very reminiscent of your read. I mentioned before that Viprin had some hand-drawn ones, and they looked pretty cool, but that just leaves one question of who has theirs that's just drawn? Quite a lot actually. And, well, it's pretty self-explanatory because, well, half our community is just artists. The most iconic one that's drawn, well, around this day, is FNM04. This looks like he got the brush tool and photoshopped and used it. It's very iconic because of that, and in my opinion, it looks sorta good. RobTop should really make this icon real, because I have no idea what icon set he consistently uses in his showcases. Lumpy has also the same kind of profile picture. There's Rayford as well, where on YouTube he rocks a simple art style that's reminiscent of his older animation shorts. I would never forget this snail video. On Twitter, it's a lot more not that, and it looks great. Jam Attack has a plethora of profile pictures. There's this shapy one which I really like a lot, and a lot of drawn ones as well, and even his own icon makes a cameo. No matter what he changes to, it looks great regardless. Tricipital is one clean one that's pixelated, and the style is so like Minecraft that sometimes I just think, wait, this is not Minecraft. Laser Blitz at one point had a drawn picture of himself with his hoodie and a hand sign trying to call someone on a phone. Before that, it was a simple traditional GD profile picture. And now he just looks jacked as fuck. Before he landed on his current profile picture, Voxycat used to have a ton of iterations on this cat, and more even before that. Before Voxycat, he was known as Cheese Nugget and wore this pixelated picture of a cat with his arms crossed. He did have another one that was a pensive cat, and I also saw that too, but he couldn't find it. And then he had an Umbreon phase and move on to this. And finally, you'll start recognizing his character with all of these, with the first one looking more like a rabbit than a cat in my eyes, and then slowly but surely getting into the weird Bingus cat down pat. There's a lot of iterations, but he truly landed on the pink cat with toxic goo coming out of his eye sockets when making I Spy with my little eye. Ever since, he hasn't really changed it at all, but in my head he's still Cheese Nugget. Loser Chick 67 and Zerberus give off the same vibe. The same, I would put in twice the amount of effort to make this profile picture look like it had no effort put into it vibe. In my opinion, they still look pretty good. It's chill and unique. If I showed either of them to a random person or a friend, they would be grossed out by the pink vomit and confused by the funny looking seahorse. Zerberus previously had the traditional GD profile pictures, but I really remember his drawn one more, and that's second to his custom icon. There's also Slay GD, Subwoofer, Paco, even if a bit out there, Arp, J-Ghost, Jzor, Vit12, Zampier, Madmar, Pig Sheffer. The list can keep going forever. But there was one huge trend in GD that if you were around the time, you couldn't have missed it. In 2020, you might have noticed a few drawn portraits of infamous players that had the same art style. Hell, you could even find some of them on Viprin's level race thumbnails. If you know who I'm referring to, it's Amor Ultra. We won't really get into his controversy because, holy crap. So we'll only focus on what he made for the community at large. He has drawn a lot of people. There was a portrait art trend to draw your favorite characters on your own art style on Twitter, and instead of characters, he just did people in Geometry Dash. Golden, Technical, Nepesta, Gizbro, Junie, Colon, Alias, BMP, Samifying, KQTB. Just judging the art alone, it's really impressive how he managed to draw all of them consistently. I do remember some people even rocking out these profile pictures on their YouTube. Not only did he draw profile pictures, he also drew level promotions and backgrounds, from levels he's liked such as Crazy and Cold Sweat and Magma Bound, or was requested to like with Castlemania and Prelude, or even his own stuff like Boomslay and PP. He also drew himself and his OC as well as his friends a lot too. It's crazy that his output was this much, to the point you could recognize it when people wore it as their profile picture.
We also can't forget about using your initials as your profile picture. The alphabet does have a use case outside of trying to spell Owo Uwu Iwi Ra by Zora GD without feeling like you just lost part of your soul. There are more of them than you think there aren't, and to me, it's a bit astonishing how many people came to the same conclusion of, I can't think of anything. Oh!
Technical has a T, Temp also has a T, and Manic648 had a really sick M, which before he also had an M that was making his own iconic font, and before that it was Super Meat Boy covered in poop and space glow. Howdy is, oh, he put his surname first, and then that's his initial. Wait, Howdy. Oh,
this must be a rapper name.
And Flub is just Flub. Now, what about logos? We'll be talking about iconography and even typography rather than geometry dash icons, and there are some real bangers here if you look hard enough. When I think of icons, I think of really just two people who are stuck in my head, Chromal and Alkali. Chromal's profile picture as of today has an X crossing over a conjoined L and a K, I think. His name is a portmanteau of his original name, Crazyman50, taking only K and Ma, and the Roman numeral of 50, which is L. There's alternate versions of it too, and they look really good. Before that, he rocked the iconic conjoined K, M, and 50 with the O filled in his red and the neon strips in the background. I still miss this profile picture, but the new one is definitely better. And Alkali. I don't think I've ever seen any other profile picture he used other than this, even back to 2.0 when I first joined. It's just so well made and so iconic, and for me personally, it's the gold standard for making your name stand out in a really unique way. But every time I read it, I never read it as A and K, I just read it as 4K. And if you didn't read it like that, I am so sorry that what I said will probably start to make sense once you look at it again. Spundix is pretty memorable in its own right. It's an orthogonal S that sort of wraps around itself and makes for a very clean, simple, and well-made maze that can't really be classified as one. Like, how do you get from the entrance to the exit? There's literally no continuous way. And HV is pretty good as well. In my perspective, it always looked like a very colourful eclipse that was about to happen, but it couldn't because the moon is just too small. Or it looks like an eyeball that's a bit too popped out. For other peeps, Bionox is also really good, I love his. And Etta has so many variants of his 8 right bracket face, it's actually pretty insane. Same goes for C1997, he had a plethora of pictures of this face before his current one today.
And if you're not artsy enough to make your own profile picture, you can always just use your face.
EVW is probably the one that comes to mind for everyone here, with Aeon Air being a very close second, and Seki and King Samla being up there as well. It's pretty much the go-to for your videos if, well, they involve a lot of commentary and making that the main focus of your content. And if you want to do not that, oh, you can go to Dominus route and just have an orange background.
And finally, let's talk about the profile pictures that are just gotten from the internet. Characters from anime, shows, or anything really. You'd be surprised at what people would actually use in Geometry Dash.
Stormfly is the one person I think of in this particular category. There are definitely multiple times in my recollection of memories that I saw him change his profile picture on YouTube. This Nika99, Irel, GG Boy, and Smokes had a previous GD profile picture right here. Even showing a picture of a gawking cat might trigger people's memories of a guy called Riversiver. And Marwek. And for some final notes, Serve used to have a ton of traditional GD profile pictures with usually different icon sets. Sometimes his player icons were a little bit different across too, but now he's settled on a logo and it looks great. Zara had a ton of anime profile pictures, some of which I just documented on several Geometry Dash wikis. It's pretty funny because now his current YouTube profile picture is this, and it looks pretty good. Truster also used to have a ton of GD profile pictures too. There is actually a lot. And now his current profile picture feels like something I'd see at a rave for sure. GD Colin had a variety of profile pictures. Before 2.0, he asked an artist on the previous Geometry Dash Google Plus forums to make this profile picture. Then someone from the GD Wiki forum came in to make this one. Later on, he went on to make his own profile pictures. After beating Theory of Everything 2, he made 2 of these, one of which with a slight metallic texture. It's really subtle. And then 2 more after these, which he doesn't really remember who made it, and also dubs the GD Colin profile picture, and then Amor Ultra, and then finally his friend Yume who drew the last 2. He used to even make Geometry Dash profile pictures back in the day when he had 100 subs. It's actually pretty crazy because he did make a lot. Huge thanks to Colin for providing these as well. We talked about the most well-known people, but how about the community at large, or just random people? It'd be a shame to only highlight just the minority, so let's take a look on Discord servers and see what people are wearing for their profile. I'll be looking through pretty much public GD servers that you can find either through an invite or searching them up on Discord, and as expected, it's quite a huge mix in Geometry Dash. You can definitely see trends throughout the years, but nowadays it's not like any of them really died out like you might expect. Some people still wear the traditional profile picture. People are themselves and they have their own history of how they got theirs. I have mine as just mostly related to Geometry Dash, or the color orange or the letter P. Someone else might have just picked their profile picture straight from the internet, or they decided to make it themselves. It might be something funny, or just their face, or it might be just branding to keep it professional, or they asked another artist to make it for them. With Geometry Dash, it's quite a healthy mix, and it might be because you have Geometry Dash's assets and iconography that you can use. Icons, borders, mostly icons, and the art style of not only the game, but the community at large really helps all kinds of people figure out what profile picture they like, especially if they wanted something Geometry Dashy. And there's definitely a lot of people who proudly brandish the game as part of their identity. I don't venture out to other communities, but if I really had to make a guess, it would definitely lean into one category or the other. There is a stereotype where if you go online, most of what you would expect to see for profile pictures is just anime. If RobTop didn't go the extra effort to make the app's icon, game assets, and help push artists to develop their different styles while making a really flexible editor, I don't think we'd see as much variety with logos, spoofs, simple GD icons combined with your typical internet profile pictures. To further cement what I'm talking about, have you noticed people wearing the term GD on their name as well? Despite not being the topic of profile pictures, this is actually a very Geometry Dash exclusive thing, and I don't think I've seen any other community do this. There is no Puueds Osu yet. I used to have the name Plebby Plays GD, and I'm sure a lot of people used to have this as well, but surprisingly, it lives on in the most unexpected yet such obvious places as Jonathan GD. Geometry Dash has such a strong presence on anyone's identity that you can really just tell immediately you're looking at a GD player when they have these kinds of profile pictures and names. If I put GD at the end of my name, I wouldn't even blink. The game really has an identity of its own that players can use to help build their own identity due to its simplicity and flexibility. It's really impressive.
But I need to make a new profile picture for myself, and it's gotta be one I can actually see through. After hearing all what I said about it today, I think I've really found a perfect way to do it. I can't feel my eyebrows.